Good afternoon, colleagues. Senate Finance Committee is in session for the purpose of voting. And we'll ask the first analyst, who is Patrick, to get us started.
So the first is a concurrence. This is Senate Bill 359, Department of Transportation Urban Tree Program Establishment. This is the bill that requires the Department of Transportation to develop an urban tree program to replace trees that are removed during construction of a transportation facility project. And the House amendments just align the Senate bill with the House cross-file that was passed by the Senate earlier this session. So the motion there would be to concur.
So we need a motion to concur.
So moved.
Okay. And do we have a second? All right. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Thank you. That looks unanimous.
The next bill is Senate Bill 80. This is the bill that deals in pertinent part with the Board of Directors of TEDCO. The House amendments conform the bill to what passed the Senate, except that the House amendments strike historically black from the provision that establishes a 2 consecutive term limit for colleges and universities, effectively applying the limit to all colleges and universities, not just HBCUs. It was the cross-file of this bill that the Finance Committee voted to go to conference on yesterday so that this change could be made to that bill as well. If you agree with applying the limitation to all colleges and universities, you would vote to concur.
All right, we got a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion from Senator Hayes. Do we have a second? To apply the same thing to all the universities.
I got it.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? If not, if you're ready for the question, all in favor, please raise your hand.
Yes, we're concurring.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, are we back? Okay, so you got some more documents in front of you that have been referred to, but you've probably not seen yet in person. First, you have a reprint and with some additional amendments, and with these additional amendments, the bill authorizes adult use cannabis in the state of Maryland. No. So anyway, so there's a reprint with additional amendments. There's also a copy of the comptroller report on women in boardrooms. It's a one-pager that they're required to compile. And you also have a copy of the Attorney General's letter about who this bill applies to and who it doesn't apply to. If you just go to the very last paragraph, it sums it up quite distinctly. And I think that was all discussed in the meeting this morning, that the bill, as introduced, would apply the requirement regarding the scorecard to all the businesses that aren't exempt by the bill. So I got some answers to some questions about, before we get into the new amendments. I went to the website for SStat and typed in some corporation names, and generally the information shows up that if you're either in good standing or you're not. If you're not in good standing, that means that you somehow are not complying with the complete reporting requirement. Just because you're not in good standing doesn't mean you forfeit the right to do business in Maryland. You have to be not in good standing for a period of time. It's not discussed on the Assessments and Tax webpage, but you have ample opportunity to correct why you're not in good standing. If that doesn't happen, eventually you forfeit the right to, as an entity, to conduct business in the state of Maryland. And you can still restore that right, so first you have to be not in good standing. If you're not in good standing for a period of time, then you forfeit the right to do business in Maryland. If you go to the web and you type in any corporation, you'll see that they are compliant. It says basically you comply with the requirements of the law. Senator Hershey asked about, is other information available? Some entities, you can get their corporate structure, but it's just a page of information about how they're structured corporate. There's no other identifying information or no specific information about the company in there. I couldn't find any reference to the number of women on their board. I imagine that number is compiled by SDAT and then transmitted to the comptroller to be reported in the aggregate. Let's see, what else? I think that's it for that. So now if you go to the new reprint and go straight to page 3, there are some additional amendments offered that are being offered by the floor leader. First, there's an additional exemption which was discussed this morning, and this was proposed by Senator Kramer. That an entity that, so this bill does not apply to an entity that has an annual operating budget or annual sales less than $5 million and does not qualify for a state benefit. Okay. So what this does is if you're pretty clear that if you have sales or your operating budget is less than $5 million and you do not qualify for a state benefit, then you're not subject to the requirements of this bill. Senator Klossmeyer, with her concern about the VFWs and the other essays, I would imagine they don't have operating budgets of $5 million. If they do, maybe we all want to work for them. So that would cover the little guys. If you go further down, you'll see that, and this was talked about this morning on line 12, that, or actually there's an additional suggestion here, and then the original suggestion this morning about changing scorecard to report. So with the additional change suggested by Senator Hayes, it's going to read, the Department of Commerce and the Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs shall develop and maintain, not develop, maintain, and post publicly, but develop and maintain a state equity report that compiles diversity data. So there's no requirement that this information be posted publicly. It still would be available upon request if somebody wanted to go and request the information, but it will not be posted publicly under the bill's requirements. And that's it. There's no other changes in the bill. So.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Do we have a second? Senator Augustine is a second. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Jennings.
So even though the report's not public, if I wanted to, I could go to state that and say, hey, I want to know the corporate makeup of company XYZ, and they can provide it to me.
Well, are you talking about the what Commerce is going to collect, or what they have to report as part of their
I just want to shield it so nobody can come in and pinpoint each company to see their makeup. I thought we were going to, just like this letter from the comptroller's office is the aggregate of
the information
that businesses.
The information that is again, SDAT there's no report that the comptroller compiled this information and reported aggregately. The information that you're referring, that the amendment deals directly with, is what Commerce would have to post if they were collecting the information. So, but if you're submitting the information as part of your report, I don't see where that is readily available to anybody who's trying to get that information. For example, I couldn't find any information on SDAT's website about the number of women on boards. There's no data field. I didn't see any data field that readily makes that information available. So I would assume the same would apply to this diversity information, that they would have to report. These entities subject to this law would have to report.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions? If you're ready for the question, all in favor of the bill as amended, please raise your hand. Okay. If you're opposed, raise your hand.
Okay, so what will happen next? Oh, sorry. What will happen next is this has to be a floor amendment that I guess will be offered by Senator Hayes as the floor leader. So this will all be drawn up as a floor amendment, and then you all have to talk to Senator Castley, or maybe he'll withdraw his amendment. I don't know how that will all evolve, but this will be this will not be a substitute committee amendment. This will be an additional floor amendment to what was already adopted by the committee.
Okay, Senator Reedy.
So, just a final question. So we're not going to add women in general to the rest of the bill? Because it sounds like we're doing the reporting that's similar to women, but we're not going to put them in the underrepresented group here in the bill? I know that wasn't proposed. I'm just, is there any appetite to do that?
There is already a report.
There's a report, but there's not a requirement, they're not one of the ones that are a class of people that help someone.
Well, I guess every sponsor kind of determines what the scope is that they're trying to deal with, and this is the scope that was carved out here.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right. What else do we have? Anything else we need to? All right. That looks okay. All right.